what your boundaries are. So knowing what you're okay with and not okay with is definitely a piece of being a sexual self-advocate. And then another one is knowing your own limits and setting boundaries with self-confidence. Yeah, so setting them, speaking up, and feeling confident about that as well. Great. All right, so Green Mountain Self-Advocates, actually, this is a piece on what self-advocates say around why they want sexuality education. And I also see Yvonne wrote advocating for survivors too. Yeah, advocating for yourself and others. Yeah, great. So I also asked these self-advocates, like, why do you want and need sexuality education? And this is what they said. I'm sorry, I got confused here. This is what they said sexual self-advocacy meant to them. So speaking up for yourself sexually and in relationships. So very similar to what you all said, knowing your boundaries and speaking up. Getting information, learning about the topic. It's okay to learn about this topic. When we don't have information, we're not going to make informed choices. We might make choices, but if we don't have the information, then we might make choices that we're not happy with because we didn't know part of it. Taking a stand and saying, I want to be in a relationship, or saying to whomever, this is my choice. Stating your sexual limits with your partner, respecting others' limits as well. So thinking about whether you want to say yes or no to things, and also respecting yes and no, depending on the partner. So really listening to each other and understanding what people's boundaries are. And then last thing is starting to do what you want with relationships. So that's another piece of the Green Mountain Self-Advocates, what they say it means to them. So very similar to what you all had around boundaries and confidence and body, feeling good about your body, all those pieces. And I included in the handouts a pamphlet of what sexual self-advocacy means to self-advocates as well from Green Mountain Self-Advocates. So that's in the handouts, and I'll show you those before we part, and you'll be getting all of them tomorrow or after this. So the other thing is, lots of people with disabilities get negative messages about relationships and sexuality. Like I was talking about before, you start to notice that people are giving different messages to you than maybe someone who doesn't have a disability, or someone in your family that doesn't have a disability. You might start to see some different messages. So here are just some examples of messages that self-advocates have told me that they've received. You aren't a sexual person. You can't make good decisions. You shouldn't be in a relationship. So those are negative, right? They're not treating you like an adult and treating you like you're a child and you're young or something. And so everyone is a sexual person, and it doesn't mean that you're having sex. It means that you have a sexuality. So really positive messages are things like sexual feelings are normal and healthy. Most people have sexual feelings. Some people don't, and that's normal too. It's okay to ask questions about this. And it's also okay to want to be in a relationship. Many people with disabilities want to be in relationships, and all kinds of relationships. They could be friendships, they could be coworkers, they could be a sexual romantic partner, and they could make different decisions within that relationship. So it's okay to want that and to speak your boundaries, like people said as well. All right. So let's talk about the process of meeting someone. And so there's really 3 steps. So if we're thinking about meeting a partner, and this is true for friendship as well, is we let people know we want to be their friends. So the first thing is feeling interested. Do you want a friendship, or do you want to be in a sexual romantic relationship? What kind of relationship are you looking for? So that first thing is feeling interested. And we're going to talk about each of these as well. The second step is really getting to know someone. Do you like them as a friend? Do you like them as a partner, or someone you're in a sexual romantic relationship with? And then it's about becoming a couple. Like, you meet each other, you get to know each other, you decide you're ready for more, and you become a couple. So we're going to go through these each individually, and then also talk about online, meeting people online. So some people move through these steps fast, or they really want a friendship or a relationship and they want it now, and they move really fast through them. And some people take a long time getting to know each other. I think one of the things to remember is sometimes if we're really in a hurry, it can feel like it's too much, right? So if I call you 20 times a day, because I like you as a friend, or I want to be in a relationship with you, it might start to bother you. So we'll talk more about that, of sort of taking a slower pace, getting to know people. Okay, and so here I'm wondering, yeah, we could do this in the chat as well. So when you think about, we'll talk about sexual romantic relationships, like partners, sweethearts, you know what I'm talking about, right? So boyfriend, girlfriend, just someone that you're in a different kind of relationship than a friendship. So what makes us attracted to someone in that way? So if you want to put ideas in the chat. So what do you think? What makes us attracted to someone in a sexual romantic way? And I'll give you a minute to think about that, and you can put them in the chat. How well people communicate with each other, similar interests and hobbies. Okay, yep. So how you communicate, interest, warm personality, maybe their tone of voice that they use. Great, and someone got another thumbs up. What else? What makes us attracted to someone in a sexual romantic way? And it could be something about how they look. It could be their personality, and it could be how they make us feel too. So any of those areas, what makes people attracted to people in a sexual romantic way? Any other things? Well, let's just go through these. It looks like we got 4 ideas here. So here's my question to you. Oh, others. Treating others with kindness and not being judgmental. Okay, great. All right, so let's start with the first one, how well people communicate with each other. So communication in sexual romantic relationships. Is that something you would also want in a friendship, or just in a sexual romantic relationship? So that's our first one. Communicate. Do you want your friends to be able to communicate well, or just a sexual romantic relationship? Both. Okay, both. All right. Yeah, I mean, a lot of times what we want in a friend is also what we want in a sexual romantic relationship. Okay. Similar interest in hobbies. Is that important for only sexual romantic relationships, or also for friendships as well? Do you say both, or just sexual romantic? Both. Okay. Both. All right. Yep. Great. All right. And warm personality. Is that just for sexual romantic relationships, or both? Both. Okay. Yep. And more both. Yeah. Tone of voice. Is that how you want? Is that just a sexual romantic relationship, or both? What do you think? The tone of voice, is that more important that it's, oh goodness, fly just flew in my hair. Is that just romantic for me? Okay, yep. So you could have a friend that has a different tone of voice, but it does seem more romantic. I think it is different between friend and relationship. Okay, so that would be more of something you'd look for in a sexual romantic relationship, or at least Tony and Chris feel that way. Others might have a different opinion. So Brittany says both, but I feel it could be more important in a romantic relationship. Okay, great. Both, it's how you're being spoken to. Okay, yeah. So kind of a difference of opinion there. And maybe, and that's again, do you like chocolate cake or not? Do you want your partner and your friends to have a certain tone of voice, or just a romantic partner? It's different for everyone. Yeah. So all this discussion can be applied to any relationship for me, even my celebrity choices. Okay, right. So they may not be your friend or your partner, but a celebrity that you're attracted to could have all these qualities as well. Okay, so let me see. Oh yeah, there was kindness as well. So kindness and not being judgmental. Is that important for just a sexual romantic relationship or for both? Okay, definitely both. Both. Okay, there seems to be a lot of agreement there. Both. All right. So what's the difference between a friendship and a sexual romantic relationship if we said most of those qualities were the same? So what's the difference? Except maybe tone of voice, but so how would you describe a sexual romantic relationship versus a friendship? Thoughts from anyone? I think this confuses any and everyone. It's difficult to describe or define. Okay, yeah. You know, a lot of people will say it's like friendship plus more. So kissing is more than friends, right? So that really the plus more is sexual feelings, right? So you could have sexual feelings for a friend, but really what we're talking about, that's a friend is usually just a nice person you hang out with. But when you're in a relationship with someone, you have sexual feelings, you're attracted to them in a sexual way or a romantic way. So that's kind of the difference there. But a lot of the same qualities, as you all said, applied to both types of relationship. Okay, so there's lots of reasons people are attracted to someone. The type of connection you have is different between sexual relationship and everyday friends. Yeah, it's more sexual and more romantic and could involve sexual feelings or feelings of love or, yeah, exactly. The type of connection that you have. It's different than a friendship, for sure. So let's say you're attracted to someone, and we'll move into sexual romantic relationships. You're attracted to them. Why would you decide not to ask the person out or act on your feelings or let them know how you feel? How do you ever stop when you think, oh, I like them in that way, but I don't think I'm going to do anything about it? Okay, so self-conscious, fear of rejection, could ruin the nature of the current relationship, right? If you're friends already and you go that way, it may ruin what you already have. So you might lose a friendship or make the friendship uncomfortable. Any other reasons you might not act on those feelings? So let me ask you about some specific relationships. So let's say you're feeling interested. Could this person in your life be a potential partner? So someone that's already in a sexual romantic relationship. What do you think about that? And that's really just an opinion. Some people would say that's fine, and some people would say no. me see what I've got here. So what do you think about that? Is it somebody that's already in a relationship? Is that an okay person to let them know how you feel, try to get to know them? What do you think about that one? It's really an opinion, you know, there's no right answer to that. It's really about what you think is okay or not okay. Can't cross the line if they're already taken, in my opinion. Yep. So it's an opinion. There's no rule about this. It's just thoughts. It would depend on how serious their current relationship is, in my opinion. Personal opinion, not fine, but it isn't a problem for some. Yep. So again, it's just people think differently about that one. So some people say, I'm just going to stay away from that. And some people say, well, maybe, depending on how close they are, how long they've been together. Yeah. So they think it through more about whether they would pursue that. And then someone of the same gender, if a person was attracted to someone, like a man was attracted to a man or a woman was attracted to a woman, would it be okay for them to try to be in a relationship with someone of the same gender? What are your thoughts about that one? Yes. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Their choice, even if it's not my preference. Right. Exactly. Yeah. And right now in every state in the United States, it's legal to marry someone of the same gender as you. So that would be, if someone was attracted to someone, they could be in a relationship, a sexual romantic relationship with them. Okay, what about a paid support person? You know, someone that's working to support you in some way. Would that be an okay person? Maybe you got a big crush on them. You think they're really attractive and your heart beats when they come in the room. I think it's important for two people who love each other to be happy regardless of their gender and gender identity. Great, thanks, Philip. Yeah. So no, I am sure there are company policies against this in all cases. Exactly. So you can't. You might have a crush on someone and might be attracted to them in a sexual way, but you can't act on it because they can't be in relationships with you. They're so paid to support you. What about someone under 16? So let's say you're an adult. No. Okay. Yeah. So age of consent in North Carolina is 16 years old. I don't know all the other rules around it, but if you were over 16 and they were under, it could be, so as an adult, no, yeah, you could get in a lot of trouble. So it's good to know all the rules around consent and age in your state. Too many rules on support and staff, and adults should have a choice. Tell me about this. Too many rules on support and staff. Would that be if all of a sudden you were online, you're chatting with someone and you've started to feel like you had sexual feelings for that person, would that person be okay to be in a sexual romantic relationship with? Fine, as both people are comfortable. Okay. Yep. Absolutely. Lots of people meet people online. But there are, you know, and lots of people are successful with it. But there are things to just kind of be on the lookout for. Yeah. And some people might be like, no way, I would never meet anyone online. Depends on the person and how safe the interaction, but it's commonplace nowadays. Yeah. And then Yvonne said risky. So yeah, there are some risks with that too. But we'll talk about what could decrease those risks. Some ways you can make sure that you're safe when you're meeting people online. All right. So we're going to talk about getting to know someone and letting them know how you feel. And we'll also talk about online pieces of that too. So let's say you meet someone in person and you really like them and you want to become more than friends. So I'm going to go through each of these steps, but the first thing that some people do is they flirt. So we'll talk about what that means and how you do that. And I'm curious if you feel like you're good at flirting or not good at it, or do you use that to let people know how you feel? Also emailing and texting each other. So you might get someone's phone number and talking on the phone. So there's ways you might communicate with someone to get to know them more, right? So you talk and you share parts of yourself and you get to know each other better. And then you could also ask someone to join you at a group activity. I'm famous for teaching people how to flirt in sign language at William and Mary. Okay, great. Good. You might have some tips for us then. And asking the person to join you in a group activity, and then asking a person out on a date. So you don't have to do all of these things, but usually you want to get to know them a little bit first. A group activity can be helpful because it's not so much pressure of a date. Going out to dinner is just the two of you and you feel nervous. So sometimes inviting someone to something where there's lots of people around can feel you can feel less nervous too. So let's talk about each of these, and Philip can share some sign language around this. So what can you say to flirt with someone? What would be something you could say to somebody to let them know you're kind of interested in them in more than a friend? What are some things you could say?
This is Philip Woodward here. I knew girls in college at William and Mary who wanted to be able to point out a cute guy at a fraternity party. So I taught them how to say cute boy or cute girl in sign language.
Mm-hmm. And so you taught people who were not deaf how to use sign language to say cute boy or cute girl?
This is Philip. Yeah, that is correct.
Okay,
Exactly.
gotcha.
I taught a lot of people how to communicate non-verbally using their hands, but they were all hearing.
Right, that's great. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so those are signs that you can use to let people know, let someone who's deaf know that you're interested too. So learning ways to flirt with your hands. Yeah, great. So other things that people could say or do to flirt besides learning sign language from Philip. General compliments. Yeah, nice smile. I like your shirt, looks really nice on you. I'm glad you're here. Now, people may not pick up on what you're doing, but those are ways to let people know. You could also let friends know that you're happy that they're there. But yeah, it's a little different, right? Like we were saying, you're saying a little more like, you look really nice and I like your smile. I'm so glad you came to this event. You can wink at someone. You can move in a little bit closer to them, but not too close, and sort of lean in and say something nice. And how you know that it's kind of working is they lean in, they giggle, they might flirt back, right? But if they look down and run out of the room, then it's not working. And we have to be really careful because a lot of the things that we do to let people know, to flirt are also things that people can feel are harassing to them as well. So we have to really pay attention to whether they like it or not. Because otherwise, if you keep doing that and they've given you the message they're not interested in that, then they're going to start to feel like they're being harassed. So you have to be careful with flirting too. And then some people ask, like, what if you're nervous to flirt? What can you do? Do any of you have any advice for self-advocates around meeting people and when they feel really nervous? Is there anything that they can do? I'd love your advice for people. Like if you were nervous, what would you do to flirt or let them know you're interested? For some, it could be triggering if they've survived different things, right? Talking about flirting. Yeah, we got to be really sensitive and notice whether people are liking that or not. And also, if we don't like it, we can say, please don't talk to me that way. You know, like people said, set your boundary if you don't like it. Ask them to join for a group outing. Makes it less personal, but still an opportunity to connect. Awesome. I think as you get comfortable being around the person, those flirting gestures may happen naturally. Yes, right. If you're really nervous, but then you get to know them a little bit, then maybe you can be a little more flirty. Great. Okay. So then we're going to talk about just say hi. Everyone appreciates a friendly hello. Yeah. So notice someone, say hello. Ask their name. So get to know them. And then we can kind of do some of that online as well. And we're just going to talk more about online issues. So if you're trying to meet someone online, you can definitely do some flirty things. But I think we have to also make sure that we're respectful, you know, because sometimes when we're online, we can be a little more brave. And we might be a little more aggressive, right? So we just have to be a little careful about sort of that tone of voice that we were talking about. So you probably heard old people say this before, but when I was growing up, we could talk face to face to people. That's how we communicated. We could call someone on the phone. I didn't have an answering machine at home. And you could write a letter. There's no email, text, any of that, right? But now there's so many ways to communicate with people. So you can text them, you can email, you can Snapchat, you can post on Facebook and other social media platforms, TikTok, you can do some online chat rooms as well. So there's lots of ways that we can interact with people besides face-to-face and calling them and writing a letter. So you have many options. So move this a little bit. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. Sorry, I'm having a little trouble seeing this. The next click. All right, got it. All right, so let's talk about what are some of the positive things about all these different types of ways to communicate. Snapchat, TikTok, all, you know, Facebook, texting, all of those pieces. What's positive about those? What are some good things that can come out of having those? So if you could write down what you think are some positive, like supportive, healthy ways to interact, what are some positives about these ways of interacting and communicating? Distance disappears at the click of a button. Yep. Something positive, your disability isn't a factor, right? People may not know that you have a disability. What else might be positive about these things? Besides distance, and social media connects people and helps them get to know each other better outside of the workplace or classroom, right? You don't have to set up a time to go meet them. You can communicate and learn about each other, you know, using these other platforms. Easy access, can interact more often too, right? Great. It's more comfortable getting to know someone. Yeah, there's like some safety in that, and you might feel you feel a little braver maybe. Yeah, great. So lots of positives around that. What are some of the negative things around meeting people online or communicating through the internet and phones? And what are some negative sides of that? Easier to wear a mask online, I think. What do you mean by that, Chris?
I mean, people can, in my experience, be different online necessarily than they are in real life. It's easier to be inauthentic.
Gotcha. Okay. Right, to not really be who you are, authentic. Yeah. If you don't know the person personally first, you may not know who you're talking to. Right. There might be a picture and you think this is the person and it's not the person. And they're actually trying to trick you. There's a need for safety awareness online that's different than in person. Yep, absolutely. There's lots of people that are scamming. I had an experience where I was scammed, and they're really good at it. They're really, really good at it. So let me just make sure. Oh, not always. Okay, we did that. Easy to stalk someone, so you can keep contacting them and bothering them. You need to be careful to stay positive when other people might be saying negative things or arguing about various topics on social media. Right, so some of the negatives are people get really angry and opinionated, and you don't want to get in this kind of thing that escalates it as well. Yeah, great. Yeah, so there's lots of positives and there's some negatives too. So let's talk about some of those. So meeting people online. So we've talked about this, that lots of people use the internet to meet people. Not everyone online is going to hurt you, and most aren't. But it's always good to know how to stay safe when meeting new people. So here are a few things to think about. We don't want to give out any personal information, like about where you live. It could be your address, your phone number, if you don't want them to call you. Social security number, bank account, anything like that. So all your personal information we want to keep to ourselves. And that's a boundary, right? People talked about being a sexual self-advocate as having a boundary. So if someone asks for those things, you can say, no, I don't give those things to people, or I don't give them to people I just met online, or whatever it might be. The other thing that's happening to a lot of people with disabilities is they meet someone online and the person says, now we're boyfriend and girlfriend, or now we're partners. I want to come see you. I don't have any money though. Can you send me money and I'll take the bus and come see you? And what they're really doing is just trying to get money from you. So my recommendation is to not send money online or accept money online. It's different when you don't know who this person is. So we want to be really careful. And this may have happened to you, or you've heard stories about people with disabilities. And I just said that I got scammed one time. They're really, really good at it. If they ask for your picture too fast, red flag. Okay. Yeah. Can you say more about that, Yvonne?
Yeah, it's very annoying when they do that because you don't know what they're doing with your picture.
Okay.
You know, they could be, number one, they could be looking at it at night. Number two, they could do anything with it online and you won't know your pictures everywhere. So
Right. Yeah. Yep. Good. So that's a great boundary to have, to just protect yourself. I've had several.
If you know them well enough, then you could probably send it, but you know, not the first message, you know.
Yeah. And I often will say that when we meet people online, they're more casual friends, that they can't become a partner until you meet them in person and you decide.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good ideas. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. I mean, that's how people do it, right? They're on a dating app or something and they meet someone they think they like or are attracted to, then they meet them in person.
Right, to make sure they look like their picture.
Right. And maybe they're not that, maybe that's a picture from 30 years ago or something.
Right.
So we want to see, who is this person and do I feel the same about them in person?
And how they sound and stuff, right?
Exactly. That tone of voice people were talking about. And Philip says, I've had several friends with disabilities who have been fooled by other people who just wanted to take money from them. Exactly. So a really good boundary to have is I do not send money. I don't send money to anyone online or accept money. So, and then like I mentioned, meet in a public place if you're going to meet them in person, and you can bring a friend as well, just to make sure they're who they are. Friend could sit with you or not, but it's just safer. And there's stories of people with disabilities that invited someone over to play cards in their home alone and they were assaulted. So we really want to meet, and that's what all people do. They don't necessarily have them come to their house. You want to meet this person first, make sure they are who they say they are, and make sure they're trustworthy as well. And I always say they can't be your partner until you meet them online. So if they say, I'm your boyfriend or I'm your partner, you say, no, I don't, you know, I want to meet you first in person. And if then they stop texting or whatever it is, you know that they were really trying to take advantage of you and get your money or whatever. So, okay, so those are some things around that, but also posting pictures online of ourselves, and that can be really fun, right? On Facebook or Instagram. But everything that we're posting online is considered public. So sometimes it's a little difficult because we get these privacy settings on our platforms and we think that it's private, but everything online is public. So we only want to post things that are public, not private. So it might be things like being with friends at a park, visiting your cousins in Virginia, having Thanksgiving with your family, and a picture of you and your sweetheart, right? So those are all public things. You can send them to anyone. But here are just some other examples, and I know we're going to wrap up soon, so I'm going to just buzz through a little of this, but just the different ones that would be private that we don't want to post. Which ones do you think you wouldn't want to post? Like, I went to my cousin's wedding last weekend. That's, you know, that's public. You could tell anybody that. What about this one? I kissed my sweetheart for hours on Saturday. Would that be okay to post, like a comment on Facebook or something? What do you think about that one? Private. Yeah. Now, some of these other things people might feel are private. You know, some people want to use Facebook and show that they went to their cousin's wedding. Some people don't. So, you know, people are different around privacy, but definitely I kissed my sweetheart for hours on Saturday is a private thing for sure. Location, because others know you. I'm not sure what you mean. Know you home? Went home?
Are not at home.
Or in home.
Okay, right. So that might
Not good because they could rob you. Yeah, I heard that happen before to people. Not personally friends, but I heard stories where they post a vacation, they come home and they got robbed.
Oh, right. Yes,
Yeah.
good point. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, we're away this weekend. Oh, thanks for telling me. Yeah, good. Thank you.
Yeah, only when you're finished you can say, yeah, that was fun.
Right, exactly. Yes. So I went to my cousin's wedding last weekend.
Right.
Right. There you go. So I'm just going to ask you a couple more because I want to make sure we finish everything. But so a photo of you and your sweetheart holding hands, would that be okay to post? Is that public or private? As long as your partner's cool with it. Yeah, that's another thing. Lots of times people post pictures and they haven't asked people if it's okay. I think it would depend on how your partner feels about it. Yeah, so that's all right. But it would be really good if we're ever posting pictures of other people to check in and make sure it's okay and get their consent. And then a photo of you and your sweetheart lying on top of each other. How about that one? No, right, because it's private. And anything that's online is public. So we can only post public things. Like you smiling and eating an ice cream cone, right? Those are public. And here's just a couple little bits of advice. And then I want to go back to the piece about, there we go. So we want to post things so that that are just public because it sort of shows that we understand things and we have healthy boundaries and we're not vulnerable. It helps us seem more confident and in charge of our lives. And when we post public things, it lets people get to know us. But if we posted private things, they'd know too much, right? TMI, too much information. But one thing you can do before posting anything is to ask yourself, would I want this post or this text to end up in the newspaper in the town I live in? So everyone can see it that reads the newspaper. Would I want my parents or grandparents to see this post? Would I want my future boss to see this photo? So those are things to ask yourself before you post something as well. All right, and the other thing that can come up sometimes, please post your email in case we have questions in the future. Absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. I'm going to give you some resources too that you can look up things as well. Okay, there you go. All right. So there's also something called sexting. Do you know what that is? When someone sends a picture of their sexual parts to someone to let them know that they're interested in them, or maybe it's they're in a relationship with them. But sometimes, you got to be careful with that too. That's one piece where you could send a picture and then you break up with the person. And now they have this picture of your sexual parts or your body or something. So you want to be really careful about that. And some people would say they would never do that because of that. That's a red flag. Yeah. If someone like you were saying earlier, if someone asks you for a picture early, send me you can have a boundary and not do that. You can say, nope, I'm not interested. If people push back, they're not respecting your boundary. And we want relationships where people respect us when we say no. And we need to respect other people saying no as well. You might think it's okay because it's your sweetheart, but the person could send the photos to other, and this could cause a lot of problems for people. And to not send naked pictures of other people, because that could also be against the law as well, especially if they're underage. And so those are things you just have to be really careful about. And there are people with disabilities that wanted to get to know someone, so they sent that picture to someone that did not want it, and they got in a lot of trouble. And they're now considered a sex offender, even though they're just trying to get to know someone. So we just have to be careful with that as well online. All right, let's go. I'm going to do quick little. Oh, we're at the hour mark, but I'll just do a couple more minutes of these slides, and then we can open it up for a discussion. Maybe things that you want to talk about as well. So talking on the phone, texting, it's especially when you're first meeting people, you only want to talk about public things. We don't want to talk about private things because you don't know them that well. We really only talk to people about private things that we know really well, or maybe it's a doctor or a nurse and we're in an exam room. And private things are sexual things or about our bodies. So we don't want to start out that way because we're just getting to know this person. So we can say, how was your day? What's your favorite music? We also have to be careful about calling too much. I mentioned that earlier. So if we keep calling somebody and they haven't called us back or texted us back, it can start to feel like harassment. So I usually tell people once a day, text someone. If they text you back, you can certainly text again, but you want to make sure you're not texting all the time, and because they could be at work, who knows. What time of day also around texting and phone, and it's different, but I usually tell people 9 a.m. Don't text or call before 9 a.m. and 9 at night, unless the person you've agreed that it's okay to call earlier or later. So those are just a couple of things that are helpful around getting to know someone. And then we're going to ask somebody out or ask someone to join us in a group, which someone also mentioned too. So that can be a little less pressure. You've gotten to know them, you really like each other, you get these nice feelings about each other, and you might invite them to do something with you, but a group activity. So it's not just the two of you. And you can really get to know people in groups as well. How do they talk to people? How do they participate in things? So, and then you can ask them out on a date. And the things that I recommend are, where are you going to go? What time are you going to meet? How will you each get there? And I think it's good to go on your own, get a ride or drive yourself if you drive, take the subway, whatever, to get yourself there on your own. And then I think that's about it. Oh, then I have a few scenarios here, but I'd love to just open it up right now. So this is really about meeting someone and asking them out on a date. We can also talk about, okay, now you're in a relationship as well, but what's on your mind? What questions do you have? How will you get there? People with disabilities deserve more transportation choices, right? So that impacts your relationships, right? Not being able to get on certain transportation, maybe don't have money to pay for transportation. So yeah, that's a barrier to meeting people and going on dates. Absolutely. What questions do you have about relationships and sexuality? And I will, we can have a discussion about them. I don't know if this would be a good time to maybe pause the recording so people could ask questions, how to use a condom, and just a conclusion. And they're all 2 or 3 minutes. They're not really long, and you can learn a lot about, in particular, sexual health, but healthy relationships and consent as well. So that's one. And let me just, there's lots of other ones you can take a look at that might be, you might find interesting and helpful around LGBTQ and also consent. You may have seen the consent, a cup of tea. I don't know if you've seen that video before, but it talks about consent is a yes, people agreeing, but they're allowed to change their mind. So someone comes over and you ask if they want tea and they say yes, and then you go make the tea and then you bring it back and they say, actually, I don't want it anymore. So they've changed their mind and they're allowed to change their mind. And it's very similar to being sexual with someone as well. You have the right to change your mind. You have the right to say yes or no. You have the right to, even though you said yes once, say no the next time. And so they use tea as a way to explain consent around sexual things with another person. So lots of good videos here. So that's in the handouts. And then there's a sexual self-advocacy pamphlet as well. So you could share that with people. And it just talks about how Green Mountain self-advocates defined sexual self-advocacy. So I can add the one around internet safety, but everything is, all the slides are here too. So everything that we went through. And there's a few, the only thing we didn't get to were a few scenarios, just because I want to make sure you had time to ask questions. So I will add internet to that. And I was just thinking there's probably, oh, have you all seen the North Carolina, it's created by people with disabilities around their rights around relationships. It's like a credo or something. Does that ring a bell to anyone? I'll put that in there, but it was created many years ago.
Was it created by the North Carolina Project STIR, STIR, Steps to Independence program? Or I don't know, something like that, really. I don't know, independent relationships, I don't know. But yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay.
If you have it on hand, we would love to add that to our list of resources. After every one of our self-advocate discussion series sessions, Chris puts together an email and he puts all of the resources and links and everything in one place and sends them out to all of the people who registered for the event, because we do have their email addresses.
Perfect.
And in the interest of time, Katherine, I'm going to thank you personally before I pass this back to Chris to thank you formally. This has been an exceptional program and experience. And we want to let the folks who are online give any parting thoughts, but then Chris does need to close us out. Thank you so much, Katherine.
You're welcome. Thanks, everybody, for participating. And think about how you can be a strong sexual self-advocate as well.
Anyone have any more parting thoughts before I offer the final parting thought? Well, Catherine, we thank you so much for coming and offering us this phenomenal presentation information. Thank you for offering your time to us today.
Sure.
Just as a reminder, Melissa was kind enough to put an evaluation in the chat. Please definitely, if you can, click on it, fill it out, let us know what you thought of the session. And yes, I am absolutely going to gather all of these amazing resources and put it in a resource email for everyone who registered. This has been wonderfully informative. Thank you to all the self-advocates for being here and being present and listening. Thank you for your bravery, for sharing in this very vulnerable topic. Thank you to the family members and advocates that joined us today. Thank you so much to the ASL interpreters and to the Spanish interpreters. And thank you, of course, to the council for allowing me to facilitate and allowing us this platform to come together today. We really appreciate everyone's time and want to give you back the rest of your Tuesday. So be sure to sign up for our next self-advocate discussion series, which is going to be June 21st, and it's going to cover the subject of transportation, and that's on a Wednesday from 1 to 2 p.m. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Catherine.
You're welcome.
Thank you, staff team, for all of your support and help. Thank you to all, as Chris said, to all of our interpreters and 23 East for their support and all the extra staff member help. Philip Woodward, thank you so much. Tamira White, thank you again for volunteering at the last minute to support the event. And I'm so happy to see that Pam was able to make it for a little while and even was engaging in her communication.